I don't have to bear this heavy weight of like, well, what's the Drag Race community gonna think? Like, I don't think about that.
They can be pretty intense, right?
Yeah, and why would I want to stress myself out? Like, it's not even a big part of where I make my money. I do it because it's fun and I love it. And I'm always going to have a grassroots connection to the community, to the club scene, to the stage. Like, if I ever want to perform on a stage, I can just go and do it.
Have they asked you back in All Stars? Are you close with the trans girls from the show?
Now.
Your private parts are different now, aren't they?
I don't want to talk about it because it's really personal. I didn't even have the language really to talk about it. I wanted to be celebrated because I was Elite's first trans model. I didn't want it to come down to being like, well, what's in your pants?
But then you go and do that amazing, iconic Dave LaChapelle photo shoot, and you're fully naked, right?
Yes.
And so, how did he approach that, and how did you feel when he asked you, like, are you willing to do this?
I was like, oh my God, people are gonna hate me. Like, I'm always telling people don't talk about genitals, and then here I am, butt naked.
I'm looking for the Reverie Studios. Is that this?
It's upstairs.
One more flight upstairs? Okay, thank you. Oh my God, gorgeous. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Give me a hug.
You look stunning.
Mwah.
Such a celebrity.
Thank
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So look at those space. We can like.
I love
figure out
it.
Something. There's actually a whole studio here.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, that's Damien.
Nice to meet you, Damien.
Hi.
Oh my God, this is cute.
Yeah, like maybe we can. Maybe
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
What's your name?
I'm Ross.
Matt, nice to meet you.
I'm thinking maybe if we sit here and like put the lights that way, it'll like give a vibe.
I'm into it. I love. Oh my
and
gosh,
I
this is
know
so
it's, like,
nice.
Usually, you know, like in the house and stuff, it's like
This works.
Yeah, this is what we have.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks for figuring this out.
Of course.
Okay, let me get all situated. What is this place and why are we here? Do you mind me asking?
Wait, that's the camera?
Well, I have another camera too. I know it's small, right?
Okay.
I use
That's so
both.
cool.
I know.
So I obviously I don't live here in LA, and this was the best way for us to connect. I'm here for work. I'm presenting an award for the Reverie Awards that we do, and this is the network that has Drag Latina.
Wait until you see what's in store for season 2 of Drag Latina. Tune into Drag Latina season 2 only on Reverie.
Thank you for doing this. Carmen doesn't really do that many interviews.
No, I'm very selective of everything that I do in my life. And this interview seems a bit formal, like we're in a studio and all this, which is like great because like we have the access to it. But although I'm in work mode, like I just want to be as casual as possible.
You're very polished. You watch what you say nowadays. You're very...
I have to, because I've learned that throughout the years. You never know who is listening. And I don't want to say something that will be taken out of context. Like when you only hear one soundbite, or you only you're not really understanding what I'm trying to say.
It's true. And you're so right. Nowadays with content, someone can clip something and put it on TikTok. And if they leave one thing you said out, then it's misconceived and looked at a certain way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, like I'm super blunt and honest. My intention is never to like hurt anyone's feelings. And if I do, I feel bad about it because I'm a human being. But at the end of the day, like I also have my perspective and my opinion and my experience.
Our Queer Life is now on Spotify. Listen to every episode, anytime, anywhere. And Spotify listeners can get early access to all the episodes before anybody else. So click the link in the description and join me on Spotify today. Carmen really helped pioneer a lane for trans artists in the entertainment field.
There's never been a lane for like a drag trans performer to even have a career. Like it wasn't known to me at the time. Like, we're talking about like 12 years ago, and the landscape was very different for trans people. Like when I started transitioning, we had two options. Either you're going to be a sex worker or you're going to be a drag queen. Okay, three options. Or you're going to be like a beautician or something, And I remember even the women that helped me transition, they were just like, we could never work at a normal job. Like we can't work at like Macy's or like, Sephora even. Like it was just like not going to happen. Now it's more about the message. I want to make sure that my message is received in the way that I intended it to be.
It feels natural to bring up now, but the RuPaul comments and stuff, and I know, I'm sorry, I know. But if I don't bring this up, then it's like,
Bring it up. Let's talk about it.
Carmen has been vocally critical of RuPaul and the show in the past. For example, in March 2014, in an interview with Advocate, Carmen said that the use of the term she-male, quote, just wasn't cool, and she said that RuPaul and the show should know better. And then later in 2015, there was some more controversy about trans representation on Drag Race after the mini-challenge in season 6 called Female or She-Male was removed from the show after it received backlash.
The fact that we created so much conversation, and I'm very aware that, you know, I was a catalyst for a lot of opportunity and change that has happened on the show, you know, but it's not something that I'm walking around like with an ego about either, because it wasn't easy to have to deal with the backlash that really like was unfair. People were like really mean and super disrespectful, and I just had to be like, take the high road. The saddest part was not so much about work or career, but it was about the people who I thought were my friend, you know, that chose to join the bandwagon of Carmen hate because it would be beneficial to their idea of what their career was going to be. And that speaks to some of the girls that were on the show on later seasons, especially the early seasons of Drag Race. We came from the gay scene and worked our way up in, you know, amateur drag shows to like be performing and like work on our craft. It was a different vibe back then.
Is it wild to see how the show has changed and become so mainstream since you've been on it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I still watch the show. I'm still a fan. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm never going to watch RuPaul again, or like, no, I don't even have personal feelings towards any of that stuff anymore. As an activist, like, those are the things that I care about. I want the show to do amazing. I want people to have less of a stigma about gay people and trans people. Like, that's literally like the whole point of me even being open with my transition. I didn't have to do that.
It was very daring, especially back then, and you should be so proud of yourself for doing that. Even though you'll always be relevant, Carmen Carrera, you are a household name. Everyone knows your name. Everyone is so excited for me to interview you. But I feel like lately you've been kind of like living a more private life. And also, like, if you wanted to be relevant, maybe you would start talking more about being trans and stuff, because I feel like those really bring numbers on TikTok and stuff.
But that's the thing. I don't do things to bring numbers. I do things that make me happy, and then the numbers come. You know, like 2 years ago, I went super viral on TikTok because I was like the trans girl at the gym. I moved on because like I'm not going to keep trying to milk that. And there's people that's how they focus and that's how they move and that's their choice. I am super private now because I have so many things in my life that are special to me that I learned the first way around, like being super transparent with everything that it became like not healthy. And I'm always going to have a grassroots connection to the community, to the club scene, to the stage. Like if I ever want to perform on a stage, I can just go and do it. I don't have to bear this heavy weight of like, well, what's the Drag Race community gonna think? Like, I don't think about that.
They can be pretty intense, right?
Yeah, and why would I want to stress myself out? Like, it's not even a big part of where I make my money. I do it because it's fun and I love it.
She's a beautiful young waitress who's about to serve up something besides a turkey club.
Once upon a time, I was Chris, and now I'm Carmen.
Back in the time when you announced your transition on TV, you were really one of the only ones talking about this publicly. And back then, you know, there were such microaggression slurs or things, you know, the T word, those kind of things that the general public didn't even know that it was offensive back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, listen, my language has changed too. Like, I've been really sensitive. We live in a different time and I'm actually happy. And sometimes, you know, they say that things have to fall apart, you know, before they can come together. And even within our community, like our community has changed so much. I think that we listen to each other more now because we're aware of people's triggers and things like that.
Was it exhausting at the beginning, kind of being in the frontier for that? Because I even watched this one Katie Couric interview, and this is not a diss for Katie Couric because she probably didn't even know at the time that was offensive. But the cringiest question that she asked, and you handled it so well, but like you had to deal with this because you were heading this, you know, trans knowledge.
Your private parts are different now, aren't they? I don't want to talk about it because it's really personal, and I don't know. I just think I'd rather talk about my modeling stuff. I'd rather talk about being in W and being, you know, maybe in Italian Vogue and doing fun stuff and showing people that after the transition, there's still life to live.
I didn't even have the language really to talk about it. I just knew that I didn't want to. I wanted to be celebrated because I was Elite's first trans model because I just did this amazing spread, you know, and I've always been a star in my family and in my community. And so I was happy to be celebrated that way. I didn't want it to come down to being like, well, what's in your pants? Like, do you have a vagina? You have lady parts? I wasn't even like solid in my identity as a woman. And I was really like only thinking about the fact that I got to set these people straight. Like, I got to make sure that they know that the next trans person they interview, they're not going to do this to.
Do you feel like there is this sort of competition between the trans community? Because I know, you know, I've had Maddie on my show, T.S. Madison, and I love her so much. If she's watching, I'm sure she'll watch this part. But I know that you guys had a little bit of tension back in the day, too.
Well, let me tell you something about Miss T.S. Madison, girl. No, I love her. Since we're talking about it, I don't want the outside world to view trans women as just a target for like these conversations and stuff. So I was really, at that time, I was like really about how I present and make sure that when I do these interviews, like I'm doing these big interviews, you know, on these big networks. So like I knew I had that responsibility that I'm going to be representing so many trans women and so many trans women to come, also the women in my family. And so, you know, I was all about like being like really like perfect and cute and like acting like it's carefree, like whatever, because I really wanted people to like me, but more so us. At the time, she was putting out a lot of like things that were not in alignment with that. And I made a comment like, oh, this is like, she's gross or something, like, you know, and my comment was probably not the best comment. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I did. I said it. I was in that mindset. And she made a whole rant video I think she made 2 videos about me, actually. I never really answered her back because I was like, dude, I don't even know how to talk to this person. Like, I don't know where she's coming from. Like, she's triggered, clearly, and I take responsibility for that. But also she took it a couple of steps too far. And that's fine, you know? And so we left it alone for like, I think maybe like 2 years until I was invited to the Drag Race finale. I want to say it was like season 5 or 6 or something. And of course, the producer of Drag Race like seat me right in front of her. Like, she's literally right behind me. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know what to say to her. And like, I'm thinking to myself, like, should I apologize? But then she like kind of crossed the line too. Like, I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to sit here.
Oh my gosh, that is so awkward.
So she taps me on my shoulder. Yeah, she taps me on my shoulder and she was like, hey, Carmen Carrera, I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for like all that bullshit. Like, da, da, da. Like, I forgot what she said, but she like apologized to me. And I was like, oh my God, like, it's totally cool. Like, I'm sorry too, like, whatever. And we just left it like that. It wasn't until this last fashion week where I was like last year Fashion Week, where I was like interviewing people at the Marco show for my TikTok. You know, we saw each other, we were just cracking jokes and shoot. And we did 2 interviews, but I didn't like the way I looked in the interview because my wig, like they put a wig on me. Like, we were walking in a fashion show together. They put a wig on me. It was like crooked, like, I don't know, but I have it recorded. And she was like, oh girl, like, you know, fuck the internet bullshit. Like, you my sister, like that. Like, she was very sweet. And I saw her at the hotel as well. And she was like, you know, asking me like what I'm doing with my life and like, just, you know, like, we're cool. Like, there's no beef. There's no drama.
Do you feel Puerto Rican with this hair?
Let me tell you something. Anytime any piece of hair I got on, I feel Rican, honey. Rican. Oh, Rican. Selena, she was Puerto Rican?
No, she Mexican.
She was Mexican? Yeah. But the lady that sang the song, she was Puerto Rican.
J-Lo's Puerto Rican.
But she ain't Mexican either, but she was singing Puerto Rican. Rican, honey, Rican.
I think we have a mutual respect and love for each other, and it is what it is. But like, we're grown-ups. You know, there's times that we disagree, and that's normal. But I think there's also a way to go about it. And for a long time, the trans community, you know, we've had our habits of being competitive, of putting each other down, of like, you know, kind of like critiquing each other in a way that's like not the nicest.
Do you think that the competition kind of stems a lot of times with people thinking activism looks different than the other person thinks? Because like, I know you're an activist and I consider T.S. Madison completely an activist too, but she's lived a much different life than you. So she looks at things differently, like things that don't offend her maybe offend you, that kind of thing, you know?
For a long time, I wanted my activism to look a certain way, because I thought that that was going to be more palatable for the world at large. And what I've learned is that there's no way in hell, it's not possible for me to control who's influenced by what I think is activism. There's too many people in the world. In my mind, I was always like, it needs to look this way because people will be able to ingest it, you know? And so now I'm like, listen, dude, we need so many more representations of the trans experience because they're so unique to the person that it doesn't matter anymore. Like, that's something that I've had to let go of. I welcome all forms of activism, you know, whether you're coming from a Black trans woman experience or from a Latina trans woman experience or from an American or Australian trans person's experience. It's always going to be different because you're speaking to what you have been exposed to, you know, and you have to be able to speak authentically in a way that your people are going to understand.
Because Carmen has been an activist for the trans community for so long, I was curious to hear her thoughts about what she thinks of the current wave of trans activism through apps like TikTok.
My only concern right now, as far as content goes, is that there's so much content, negative content about us, like about trans people, about kids, about non-binary people. And it's like, I don't even know what to do about that anymore. Like, the only thing that I can think of is just, we have to continue to push positive trans stories, authentic trans stories, and show people that, you know, they're wrong. And that's really how I look at it.
What I've realized in my series and why I'm so passionate about interviewing trans people is because I feel like it makes my audience think like, oh, what they went through, I went through. And they start to be able to relate to them, and they see a person beyond like, oh, that used to be a man, or whatever the case may be, you know?
No, totally. Like, honestly, my experience is intersectional. So it's like what I've experienced as a Puerto Rican, Peruvian person that grew up in New Jersey, that listened to 90s hip hop and 90s R&B, you know, like, is going to be different than someone that grew up in the Midwest that, you know, had to deal with religious pressure and like just society and stuff. And so, like, we need to see all of these examples. I am an out trans person everywhere I go because there's going to be someone that has recognized me from somewhere. There's sometimes that, yeah, people don't even know, you know, and that's cool too. Now it is about like being out there and making your presence known and not hiding or shrinking yourself anymore. And that's a beautiful thing because that's kind of like what I always wanted from the start, because I'm like, well, dude, like, we're still human. So like, you're gonna tell me that my life before my transition, I was able to like be free and like be like the gay kid at the makeup counter that all the girls wanted to come see and be celebrated. But now that I'm trans, it's like, no, actually, you can't go out during the day. You can't go to this place. You can't go. I'm like, what the hell? That doesn't make sense, you know? So I'm happy that that has changed. And I'm happy that there's so many trans girls that are empowered now to be more open and talk about their experience and not care so much, you know, about being stealth.
Do you even consider yourself a drag queen as well anymore? Because I don't even look at you as a drag queen.
Oh, I don't even know what I am. I guess I mean, I perform in drag because maybe it's not even drag. I don't even know. I guess I don't fit in a box. Like, I'm a showgirl, but like, I love the drag show, you know.
But what's your relationship with drag now?
Well, now I'm like, I just want to like be that girl. I am that girl.
You've been that girl.
I am that girl. And like, that was like, that's why when people say like, oh, Carmen, like, your drag is boring, like, you should like do this and like get different wigs and change your hair and do these costumes. And I'm like, but that's not my character. That's not me. And if I want to one day, maybe I will. If I have a reason to, if I have a spark of passion that's like, I'm going to go back on Drag Race, on All Stars, and show them the new version of me, but I'm always going to be the same person. Why should I change and sell myself out to appeal to people that are probably not going to like me anyways?
Have they asked you back in All Stars?
I mean, I have open communication with the producers if I ever wanted to. I think that they think that I don't want to.
I would think that too. I feel like you kind of give the energy that you've moved on from that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day I might, if I'm going through like a midlife crisis and I'm like, well, fuck, like maybe I should go back on, but I doubt it.
What if it was like a trans girl season?
Yeah, I said that on another interview. Like, if we had an all trans season, maybe I would probably do it just for the community.
Are you close with the trans girls from the show?
Now. I had some issues with like Gia and stuff like that, but I love her.
I love Gia too. Shout out to Gia if she's watching.
I see her as like a baby, you know, because like I'm older than her. And so it's like watching her progress and her transition. It's like the trans older sister side of me is like, I just want to love her. But at the same time, the human friend side of me is like, I need to be careful. You know what I mean? So we're kind of like working on our relationship, our friendship.
Not a touchy subject, but kind of an awkward subject too. But, you know, with the Katie Couric interview, she asked you that vulgar question, which, you know, obviously we don't ask trans people that. But then you go and do that amazing, iconic Dave LaChapelle photo shoot. And you're fully naked, right?
Yes.
And so how did he approach that? And how did you feel when he asked you, like, are you willing to do this? Because I feel like that was a big move for you.
I know, right? And I remember that too. I was like, oh my God, people are going to hate me. Like, I'm always telling people don't talk about genitals. And then here I am, butt naked. It was approached to me through my agency, Elite, at the time. They were like, okay, well, they want to do like a fully nude photo of you. And it's for charity. And they're going to auction the photo. It's not going to be like something that's just for a magazine. Like there's some depth to it. And yes, it's going to be polarizing, but they're like, we think you should really do this. Like, this is going to be something that's, you know, they had to like kind of talk me into it. You know, me at the time, I was like married, have stepkids. Like, I was like very much in the role of stepmom at the time. I was like, dude, I can't do this. Like, and you know, eventually I did talk to my family about it. And then when I got to the set, I remember that day. And he photographed me, went, well, awesome. A couple months later, when it's time to like put the photo out, you know, it was like a penis and a vagina. Like, it was 2 shots that was like with both male and female genitalia. And I was like literally losing sleep because I'm like, what are people going to think about me? Like, oh my God, I was a mess. But I went to Vienna and they had it plastered all over the city because in Europe you can show nudity. It was very intense.
Wait, okay, so just for clarity, so you said they edited 2 different versions, one with the vagina, one with the penis, and you didn't know which one they were going to use?
No, they're going to use both. Like, what does it matter? Like, I think it was like, I am Adam, I am Eve, like, I'm human or something like that. Like, and that was like in Austrian, right? That's the language, or Dutch that they speak. I don't know. It was hard, but I knew that like God was going to come through. I was like, there's some way, somehow it's going to be okay. I went there. They were protesting. The people were like, how dare you put this all over our town and our city? I got there. Everyone was great. We did the red carpet. And then we went to the auction and they sold it for $250,000. Like, someone bought it. And like all that money went to people who have HIV and who have AIDS. You know, my father passed away when I was 2 from AIDS, from HIV. So I'm like, dude, like, if I can do something that's going to like benefit these people, like, I'm gonna be okay.
The pictures are iconic. Like, it's beautiful. Do you regret doing it, or are you proud of doing it?
I'm so proud that I did it. I was scared at the time because I was like in that mentality of like, my activism needs to look a certain way, you know, and like I have to keep this like clean aesthetic and like picture perfect like thing because it's gonna damage or further sway the public's acceptance. Like, I had that much pressure because we hadn't, remember, like, I felt like I was all out there by myself. You know what I'm saying? It was like kind of Laverne too, but like she was like just starting to get those conversations going and intellectualizing, you know, our trauma and stuff. And that was just happening. Like, it was very new, but I'm happy that I did it because it benefited a lot of people. And, you know, I felt like it was part of what I was supposed to do.
It just makes so much sense, even in terms of like, you know, maybe the spats or the feuds you've gotten other people, because you just felt so much pressure to make trans people, you know, look a certain type of way. And then do you feel like you made mistakes in your activism?
Yeah, I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes, for sure. I think even throughout the whole like issues with Drag Race and stuff, and like really getting pissed off and annoyed at like what some of the fans were saying and like responding in a way like just as rude, you know what I mean? And like just things like that. Like for sure. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was to be expected. I mean, didn't go to school to be an activist. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything was just happening and I was just dealing with it with what I knew at the time.
You seem like you're in a great relationship with this man who is fine. If no one has seen, then you need to check him out because he's looking good. How did you meet him?
He better be fine, okay?
Yeah, that's true.
6 years before I dated anyone seriously. We actually met via social media. He saw one of my videos, just like out in the ether, like, and
what video was it?
It was the one of me in the gym, the TikTok one. And he followed me just because he thought I was like pretty. Yeah, he just slid in my DM and was like, hey, what's up? Like, nice to meet you. Like, I'm such and such. And we just became friends like instantly.
Had he dated a trans woman before?
No. And that was my requirement. I didn't want anyone that dated a trans person.
Why?
Because I've dated guys that dated other trans women and it just gets messy. This is my experience. I'm not saying like, okay, guys, don't kill me for this. For a little while in the beginning of my transition, I was like, or the beginning of my separation and my divorce, I was like, I'm not going to date a chaser. Like that was like a thing. Like, not going to date a chaser. And then eventually when I was like single for like 2 years, I was like 3 years, I was like, oh, well, why not? Why shouldn't I date a guy that's like attracted to trans? Like that's what I am, a trans person. Like I'm not gonna like beat the Lulu. Like I'm just like a woman and like whatever. Like I'm a trans woman proudly. So I would date guys that would constantly, you know, hit on me, and like I knew that they had dated like one of my girlfriends or someone that I know. And I'm like, let me just give this guy a chance. Like maybe he's a good guy. You know, like maybe we're just judging him really harshly, whatever. I was too nice. And so I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson that there's just some guys that, you know, can never get enough. Like they want to try this one and try that one and try this flavor. It's like all the flavors, you know, and that was weird for me because I'm a super like monogamous person. Like I am a relationship person. I'm a long-term person. And so that was really messing me up, and it was teaching me a lesson that I have to value that in me. Like I have to value the fact that I'm built a certain way and I think a certain way, and that is my power because that's who I am, you know, and like stop giving like leniency to like things that I already know instinctually are not for me. If a guy is gonna love me and we're meant to be and we have a story to live and a love to have, it will be like I will meet him at the supermarket, I'll meet him at the gym, it'll just happen, and he will accept me. Like it won't be like this fear that I have to hide that I'm trans and all this bullshit and play this like game. It's not gonna be that. 6 years later, it eventually happened. And yeah, like he never dated a trans person. He was not looking for a trans person. There was just something, he said there was something about me that got his attention. We were honest off the bat. Like he told his friends, he told his family, and you know, they were very like kind of hesitant at first until they met me, and then once they met me and saw us together, like it's cool, which is a huge blessing because that is not also like, you know, not common. Like people can be very hateful.
What does a day in the life of Carmen Carrera look like?
Well, I have 3 dogs, and those dogs are my entire life. I never thought in a million years that I would have like animals to raise, and so they're like my kids. So my world revolves around like my dogs first. And typical day is like I wake up, walk my dogs, feed them, then I feed myself, then I answer my emails, then I go to the gym for like 3 hours, and then I come, because I do the cold plunge. So like I'm in ice cold water. It's like 38 degrees, 37 degrees, almost freezing for about 5 or 6 minutes. Then I take a shower, then I do my workout. I lift weights, I do all that stuff. Then I do my cardio, and then I go in the sauna for 30 minutes. So like I'm there for like a while. And then after that, it's just to, you know, I cook for my man. Like that's my favorite thing.
Are you a little like housewife vibe?
I am a big time housewife. At the time that I was married before, I had transitioned in our relationship, so I really didn't know how to be a housewife per se. But I was like, that was my role, right? And now I've learned so much. I'm so much more confident in myself. I have let go of like how I should be, how I should act, how I should look, or whatever the fuck. Like now I'm just like myself, and I'm able to share this me with him, and it works so well, and it's something I'm really proud of because it took so long to get here, and I never really thought like this is what my life was going to look like. It just kind of happened that way, and when like things are like kind of like serendipitous like that, it just means so much more, and you just want to protect it. And that's why I don't like post it. Like why would I want to have random strangers hitting up like my man? Like no, like what I have at home is a huge blessing, and I don't take it for granted, and it's not something that I want to like put in front of people's faces.
I was nervous to come here because I didn't know if it was going to be like having to watch my P's and Q's, or you know, or if we would get anything, like if you would be closed off, because you just seem like such a it was hard to understand or to read you from like your Instagram and stuff. You're just this gorgeous girl, and I didn't know what it was going to be like, but you came here really open and so warm, and I hope the audience feels that too. Like you came in with no preconceived, like you can't see this, you can't see that. Like it was a joy talking with you, honestly.
Thank you. Likewise, you're a great interviewer. Thank you for listening, because sometimes I go off on a tangent. I'm actually really happy that I can sort of leave all of those things, because it's stressful to like try to control that. It's too much. Like why would I don't even care. Like, people that are gonna love me, they're gonna love me, and people who are gonna vibe with me, they're gonna vibe with me, and I don't need to try to calculate that, because then it's fake. So it's like, what's the point? And then what, my whole life I'm gonna have to like try to keep this act up? Like, no, fuck that. Like, I know for a fact I did not go through this whole life transition, okay, literally from one gender to the next, and all this fucking exposure to now be like not myself. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm happy that you felt that, and I hope that everyone else feels that too. And I don't know, I hope in the future to make more content, maybe like start a YouTube channel or something. I'm kind of like in my hosting era right now. You know, we're talking about the next season of Drag Latina. I want to like plug that, you know. I just want to put out there, it's like no way, shape, or form trying to come for any other drag reality competition. Like, it's just something to contribute. We want to contribute to the larger narrative. And, you know, like I said, I love my community. I love the show. I'll always be a showgirl at heart. And I'm focused on my future. And I hope you guys watch Drag Latina. Season 3 is coming very soon, and I'm very proud to present it. And yeah, maybe that YouTube channel will come about at some point. We'll see.
It should,
right? I mean, it will, maybe. Possibly.
I'll link everything below so everyone can check out your socials and the Drag Latina and everything that you're doing. But thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy, and I appreciate it. Carmen is such an icon in our community, and to be honest, I just feel so lucky that she trusted me with her story and came onto my channel. I remember the day that she started following me. I think it was on TikTok first, but I saw it and I was so excited, and I immediately shot her a message, you know, saying how much I loved her and that I was so honored that she followed me. And it's been really nice developing such a friendship with her. She's such a beautiful person and stands true in her beliefs, but also is so warm and compassionate. To be honest, before I interviewed her, I didn't know exactly what I would ask her. I didn't want to ask her something that would offend her. I didn't know how much information she would want to divulge, but the minute I met her and the minute we sat down, I just felt so comfortable and felt like she really trusted me and I really trusted her, and it just felt like a really easy conversation, and it felt like someone that I had known for much longer than just meeting her that day. Since filming this interview with Carmen, she has started her own podcast, which is so great, and I'll link it below, so make sure to check it out. I'm just so excited to see what's next for Carmen because she's such a beautiful person and really driven and strong, both externally and internally, and I just know that she's gonna keep achieving more things, so I'm really excited to keep an eye on her career. I am actually in San Francisco right now. If you notice the background, it's actually my sister's apartment. It's so beautiful. I love being here. I got back from Thailand I think 3 days ago and spent 2 days in LA just sleeping as much as I could so I could try to like get back on the time zone of, you know, California time. And I'm in San Francisco now. I'm feeling so great. It's kind of rainy outside, which is really nice because LA, you hardly get that weather. So it's been really nice to just sit inside and be all cozy and have the heater on and work. And I'm just feeling really grateful for this holiday season. And I go home to see my family in a couple days, which is way overdue. I haven't seen my parents in like 5 or so months, and it's so important. You know, I think that's one of my New Year's resolutions is to make more time for my family and not take that for granted. You know, for me personally, I'm such a driven person and just so career focused and just, you know, in this hustle mindscape that like a lot of the times I feel like I don't make time for people in my life that I really love. And it's something that I really want to work on this next year is, you know, realizing my true priorities in life, which is my family and of course my career and stuff too, but making time for my parents and stuff. Every time I see them, you know, they're getting older, and I just don't ever want to like look back on my life and wish that I had made more time for them during these years of life. So I'm really excited to go home and just spend some quality time with them and with my sister and play games together and laugh together. We love like playing card games and stuff together, and it's a really fun way to connect. So I'm really excited for that. I hope that you all are doing well too during this season. I know the holiday season can, you know, be tough for a lot of people too. So if you're, you know, having a hard time right now, I'm sending you all my love too, and just know that you're not alone. I mentioned in my last video, but I'm going to say it again for those who maybe didn't catch my last episode, that I am going to be much more consistent with my posting schedule here on YouTube. I need that for my own self-discipline. I need to have like accountability. And so every Sunday there'll be a new Our Queer Life episode. So that's today. as you're watching, and then Thursdays will be a new Queer Case Files episode, which I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about that, and that makes me so excited. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to explore other avenues of my creativity, and it's just been a really interesting new way of creating content that I've been enjoying, and being able to talk to you more one-on-one instead of always just to the other person. I feel much like I'm connecting with you a lot more, and that feels really good for me. I hope you're feeling that too. So thank you for all your encouraging words on that new series as well. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope you're doing so well today, and I will see you on Thursday with a new episode of Queer Case Files. Okay, bye-bye.